So this sounds fake, I know, but I swear I wasn't even looking for anything. Like, not even close. I was half watching old Vine compilations on mute, scrolling with one hand, the other one still stiff from the brace when I saw it. My own damn face, bruised and bloated, in that gross greenish hospital gown under the title, Help Josh Recover from a Life-Threatening Car Crash. No joke. I sat up so fast the TV remote slid off the blanket and hit the floor. That photo? I didn't even know anyone had taken it. It was the photo they took the day after they took the breathing tube out, I think, because my mouth looked swollen and there was that big scratch down my cheek that hadn't started to heal yet. I looked awful. Not in a self-deprecating way, just medically terrible. And there it was, plastered on this GoFundMe with some cheery-ass description. Josh is a kind, resilient young man recovering from a tragic accident. He has no health insurance and a long road ahead. Any help is appreciated. I almost laughed. Like what? I'd been out of the rehab facility for 2.5 weeks, living in a crappy second-floor unit above a nail salon in Tacoma, with this little kitchen that smelled like mold no matter how much bleach I used, and the kind of radiator that clicks all night even when it's off. I hadn't seen my mom or dad once since the accident. They sent a couple texts when I was still in the hospital, both of them awkward and full of typos, like they were trying not to sound too involved. The only person who showed up was my Aunt Janine. She came by twice, once with a grocery bag of bananas and a Red Book magazine from 2021, and once just to say hi and tell me God has a plan. I never asked her for anything. I never asked anyone for anything. That's kind of the thing. I was proud of handling this myself, even if it sucked, even if I was behind on rent and eating peanut butter out the jar with a plastic spoon because I hadn't done a real grocery run in forever. I was gonna figure it out. I was figuring it out, and then suddenly there's this fundraiser with my whole life story laid out like I'd written it, only I hadn't. They said I'd always loved helping others and that my smile lit up every room, which is insane, because I've been told I have RBF since middle school. They said I dreamed of becoming a nurse, and that my family had rallied around me in this difficult time. That one stung the most. The thing had $8,327 donated. 8,000 from strangers. Some left comments like, "Get well soon, Josh," or "My son went through something similar, stay strong," and "Glad your family is there for you." I just stared at it, like my hands got cold. There was a donation from a Carolyn M. for $200 with a little heart emoji and a comment. Sending prayers to this beautiful soul. Who the hell were these people praying for? I clicked the organizer's name. Janine R. from Auburn, DDQ-A. I sat back against the couch cushion like I'd been pushed. My aunt. Janine, the same woman who didn't even mention this when she stopped by, who looked me dead in the eyes while I was trying to figure out how to bathe with one working shoulder and never said a word about this campaign. I don't know what freaked me out more, that it existed or that nobody thought I should know it existed. Like, were they hoping I'd never find it? Were they planning to tell me after it closed? Were they even going to tell me at all? The worst part? I kept scrolling through the comments and found one from my mom. She shared the fundraiser with the caption, "Every little bit helps. Family is everything. Yes, blessed." Then there was a photo of her drinking tea with some quote underneath like, "Gratitude turns what we have into enough." You want to scream, but there's no one to scream at. So yeah, that's how it started. Me, in pajama pants, in a too-warm apartment with one good arm, staring at my own damn tragedy being used as marketing. And then I did what anyone would do. I messaged Janine. I tried to keep it cool. I typed, "Hey, just saw the fundraiser you made. Kinda surprised. Can we talk about it?" 2 hours later, she wrote back. One line, no emojis, no apology, just, "We thought you'd be grateful." No punctuation either. Like she couldn't even give me that. And yeah, if you're wondering, I'm still not sure what pissed me off more. The fundraiser itself, or the fact that they didn't even try to lie better. So I texted Janine again, this time not even trying to be polite, because honestly, what's the point? I wrote, "You used my name and my face to raise money, and you didn't tell me. That's not okay. I want to know where the money went, all of it." I hit send, nothing for 10 minutes. Then 20. An hour later, I checked again. She'd read it. No response. No dots typing. Just that gray little scene under my message, like a middle finger in Helvetica font. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept turning things over in my head, trying to make it make sense. Which, let's be real, it didn't. Around 2 a.m., I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the blinking router light. Yeah, still blinking, like always. And I called my dad. Straight to voicemail, called Mom right after. One ring, then a click. She hung up. That one hurt more than I expected. Like, wow, okay, not even going to pretend? I'd been out of the hospital for 3 weeks and they hadn't checked in once, but now I was inconvenient. The next morning, before I'd even made coffee, and by coffee I mean pouring half a packet of instant into a chipped mug and hoping for the best, I opened the old GoFundMe link again. I'd bookmarked it, just in case. And yeah, there it was. An update posted by Janine. Thanks to everyone who donated. Josh is almost fully recovered and will be forever grateful to everyone who helped him along this journey. Forever grateful? I nearly spit out that first bitter sip. I left a comment under the post because what else was I supposed to do? I wrote, hey, just so everyone's clear, this is actually Josh, and I just found out about this fundraiser yesterday. No one told me it existed, and I haven't received a dime. It wasn't even angry, just matter of fact. Honest. 10 minutes later, the entire fundraiser page vanished. Gone. Like it had never existed. No comments, no updates, no photos. Just a 404 error and a redirect to the homepage with a banner that said, "Every act of generosity counts." Sure it does. After that, I checked my Facebook, which I almost never use, and saw I'd been blocked. Not just by Janine, my mom too. And my little brother Nate, who I used to play co-op with on the Xbox back when things were still tolerable. I mean, what did he even do? Or what did I do other than exist in the wrong way? That was the moment it shifted. Something in me just snapped into place. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about what they thought they could get away with. Like I was disposable. Like the second I started breathing on my own again, they could fold the whole story up and put it in a drawer labeled handled. I wanted something solid. Something I could hold in my hands that said, this happened. This was real. So I went to the clinic that handled my rehab checkups, the one with that flickering fluorescent light, and the receptionist who always wore pink Crocs with mismatched socks. And I asked for printed copies of everything in my file. It took an hour and a half. The nurse looked at me sideways the whole time like she was waiting for me to start crying or yelling, but I just stood there. Still. Heavy. Like all the blood in my body had moved down into my shoes. Back home, I spread the pages out on the tiny dining table, which is really just an old folding card table from Walmart I bought used for $20. Intake forms, medication records, ICU transfer notes. A time-stamped chart showing my oxygen levels the night they thought I might not make it. Real stuff. Paper evidence of pain. And in the middle of it all, I pulled up the GoFundMe photo again. Same bandage on the forehead, same bruising, same lighting. The photo was taken the day I left the ICU, the day I couldn't even lift my head without getting dizzy. Someone, Janine I guess, had stood there in the doorway and taken that photo, probably while I was asleep or loopy from meds, and then uploaded it with a caption like, "He's a fighter." I mean, yeah, I guess I am, but not like that, not for them. And definitely not for their social media performance of being supportive. It's a weird thing, realizing your pain was useful to someone else, that your trauma was, like, marketable. And then realizing that the second you started to heal, you became useless. Like, how do you process that? I keep thinking, if I hadn't seen that post, would they have ever told me? Would they have split the money quietly, bought groceries, paid off a credit card? Was I just a story to them? I don't know. And honestly, I don't even know what I want from them anymore. But I do know this. I'm not going to let it slide. Not because I'm desperate or broke or bitter. Okay, maybe a little bitter. But because somebody has to tell the truth. And if not me, then who? I don't really know what flipped the switch. Maybe it was seeing my own words erased like they'd never mattered. Or maybe it was just the way my mom's profile picture stayed smug and untouched even after everything. But that night, I opened up my old Dell laptop, the one with the busted hinge and keycaps that stick if you type too fast, and made a folder on my desktop called Receipts. I dumped everything in there: screenshots of the fundraiser, the blurred out donor list, the photos they used, my aunt's one line reply, the deleted comments, even the printout from the clinic that had my ICU admission date and the time the photo was probably taken. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it all yet. I just knew I needed to gather it, like evidence in a case nobody else was going to take seriously. And yeah, I know how that sounds, but when it's your name on the internet, when strangers are donating to a version of you that doesn't exist, when your own family acts like they did you a favor while spending that money on whatever the hell they wanted, you start to feel like the only way to stay sane is to document everything. So I wrote the post. Not here, not yet. I started on Reddit because honestly, that place feels like a confession booth without the priest. I put it in r/true off my chest, just titled it something dumb like, "My family used my accident to scam people, and I just found out." No fancy formatting, no capital letters. Just the story, raw. What happened, what they did, what I knew, what I didn't know. It blew up overnight. I went to bed with like 15 upvotes and woke up to 300 comments. Half of them angry on my behalf, half of them sharing their own messed up family stories, and a handful just saying, "This is fraud, straight up fraud, lawyer up." I didn't reply to any of them right away. I just read every word. I don't think I realized how badly I needed someone, anyone, to say, "Hey, this actually sucks. You're not being dramatic." For the first time since the accident, I didn't feel crazy, or alone, or like I was imagining it all. There were strangers who didn't owe me a thing but still said, "This is wrong. You were wronged." And that hit weirdly hard. Still, I kept circling one question in my head over and over. Should I just ask for the money? Like, yeah, it would be awkward, but it was mine, right? Or at least raised in my name. And I wasn't exactly swimming in cash. Rent was overdue again. I hadn't had a real meal in 2 days, and my car, if you can call a rusted 2006 Toyota Yaris a car, was running on hope and fumes. But every time I got close to drafting that message, "Hey, Janine, I think we should talk about that fundraiser," I'd see my dad's stupid smirk in that Harley selfie, the one with the caption, "She's a beast," or my mom's tea mug photo with the quote, "We rise by lifting others," and my stomach would turn. Like, no, actually, you don't get to take my face, my story, my actual blood and bruises, and pretend it's about lifting others. A few hours after the post started trending, someone in the comments dropped a link. They'd somehow found a cached version of the GoFundMe after it got deleted, like digital archaeology or something. They posted a screenshot of the transaction summary, and there it was, right there in gray font. Deposited to Janine R., Auburn, WA. I didn't message her, not this time. Not even to demand answers or yell or tell her how disgusted I was. I knew now that it didn't matter. They knew what they did. They were just hoping I'd stay quiet. So I did the opposite. I went on Facebook. Yeah, the same dead, awkward profile I barely used since high school. And made a public post. Not just the story this time. Not just vague words. I attached screenshots. I uploaded the receipts. I tagged nobody but said enough for everyone to know who I meant. And I ended it like this. You don't have to pay me back. You don't even have to talk to me. But don't pretend this was about me. Don't act like you helped me. You helped yourselves, and that's fine. But at least be honest about it. No hashtags. No PL share. Just the truth sitting there like an open wound on my timeline. I turned off my phone for the night after that. Made a cup of tea even though I hate tea. It was the only thing left in the cabinet besides a pack of dry ramen and one bruised apple. And yeah, I know posting online doesn't fix anything, but it felt like something. Like pulling a splinter out. It still hurt, sure, but at least now I could finally see it. Update. I almost didn't answer the call. You know how you stare at the screen and try to guess who it might be, even when the number's completely random and out of state? That was me. I was literally about to hit decline when something, gut feeling, maybe boredom, maybe just wanting to feel something besides that weird combination of rage and emptiness, made me slide my thumb across the screen and say, "Hello." What I heard next honestly threw me. A quiet voice, shaky like she'd been rehearsing but forgot the lines halfway through. Hi, you don't know me. I'm Molly. I'm your sister. I mean, half-sister, I think. I sat up straight like someone had punched me in the chest, which, let's be real, is impressive considering I was on my third reheated quesadilla of the day and barely had the energy to blink. I didn't say anything right away, and she must have taken that as a sign to keep talking because she rushed out. I saw your post. Someone sent it to me. I didn't know if I should call. I didn't even know if it was real, but it is, right? You're Josh? I said, yeah. Just that. Yeah. Then there was this weird pause, like she was letting the words sink in too. And then, I swear I'll never forget how she said it. She goes, he always said you were the one who lied, that you tried to screw everyone over for money. Her voice cracked a little. He said you weren't part of the family anymore. That's why I didn't think you were real. For a second, I thought she was pranking me. That maybe Janine had cooked up some next-level scheme to guilt-trip me back into silence, but something about Molly, her voice, how unsure she sounded, like she was scared to even be talking to me. It just felt real. Raw. She told me her mom left our dad when she was 11. Said he was never abusive in the way people expect, but that he had this coldness, like the kind that could freeze a whole room without raising his voice. She said he never mentioned my name unless it was with some bitter twist or like that boy or the embarrassment. Apparently, he'd been laying the groundwork for years, telling stories about how I stole from him, how I lied about the accident, how I played the victim to get sympathy from bleeding hearts online. Her words, not mine. And here's the part that made me feel like the floor just dropped out from under me. She said he used to tell people I forged things. Bank stuff, medical bills, tax returns. Said he'd cleaned up the mess I made, that he'd had to take legal hits because of me. Can you believe that? Like, was this always the plan? Was I just a scapegoat in some long game I never agreed to play? I asked her if she had proof. Not because I didn't believe her, but because I needed something tangible to hold on to. She said she had letters, a couple of tax documents from when she was younger that had my name on them, even though they were addressed to their old house in Oregon, a place I'd never even been. She offered to send me photos. I said no, not yet. I didn't want more screenshots. I wanted to see it for myself. So I asked to meet, which is nuts, right? I mean, who does that? Meets a stranger based on a 5-minute phone call and some shared DNA? But for some reason, I wasn't scared. Not even a little. I was curious? Hopeful, maybe. Like, maybe this person, this random sister I didn't know I had, maybe she could help me put together all the pieces I'd been trying to make sense of since the day I woke up in that hospital bed. We picked a neutral spot, a coffee shop in Tacoma, halfway between where she lived now and where I'd crashed. Nothing fancy, just one of those places with fake chalkboard menus and way too many kinds of tea. I told her I'd be the guy in the thrift store hoodie with a slight limp and a face that probably still screamed survivor of the world's worst family reunion. And now I'm just sitting here at my kitchen table, writing this while my tea goes cold, wondering, what else don't I know? Because if my dad was willing to spin that kind of lie about me, if Janine and my mom were willing to go along with it, if my entire family had built this fake version of me just so they wouldn't have to face who they really were, then who the hell am I actually? I always thought this was a story about money, but now I'm starting to think maybe it's about identity, about truth, about figuring out what belongs to me, not just legally, but personally. Like my story, my name, my damn life. I guess we'll see what Molly brings with her. Maybe it'll all check out. Maybe it won't. But either way, I'm not backing off this time. I've come too far to stop now. Besides, the only thing scarier than the truth is not knowing what it really is. We met on a gray, wind-heavy Tuesday that felt like it couldn't decide whether it wanted to rain or just keep sulking over Tacoma like a wet towel someone forgot to wring out. And the place we picked, a coffee shop on 6th Avenue with too many Edison bulbs and this weird wall-sized print of a goat in sunglasses, tried really hard to look quirky, but mostly just smelled like burnt almond milk and damp upholstery. I showed up early, got a drip coffee I didn't even really want. It was the cheapest thing that wouldn't make me look like I was just loitering. and picked the corner booth near the window where I could pretend to scroll on my phone while watching everyone who came through the door. Like I'd somehow recognized the face of a half-sister I didn't even know existed until 4 days ago. Molly walked in with this sort of folded-in posture, like someone who wasn't sure if they were supposed to be there, dressed in an oversized hoodie with the sleeves covering most of her hands, and a canvas tote that looked like it had seen every weather season twice. She looked around the room, spotted me, and yeah, I guess I looked enough like the guy in those screenshots, and walked over with a nod, not quite smiling, but not looking away either. We didn't hug, we didn't shake hands, and neither of us said anything personal like, nice to meet you, or this is weird, because it was already written all over the space between us. She sat down, and for a moment we just kind of existed in parallel, both of us processing the fact that this conversation, whatever it was going to turn into, had already started the moment she dialed my number. Then, without any intro or hesitation, she reached into her bag, pulled out a worn manila envelope, and slid it across the table with this awkward little gesture, like she was handing me a secret but wasn't sure if I actually wanted it. I opened it slowly, half expecting it to be some kind of elaborate prank, and inside I found a letter from the IRS addressed to Joshua R. Vance, dated 1 month before the accident, sent to a street in Eugene, Oregon, a place I've never lived, never visited, never had reason to even think about. It was a notice regarding a 1099 form from a landscaping company I'd never worked for, saying income had been reported under my name. When I looked up at her, the envelope still in my lap, all I managed to say was, "He used my name," and she just nodded like she'd been waiting for me to catch up. Not surprised, not emotional. Just sad in that deep, resigned way people get when they've seen too much too early. She told me it wasn't the first time he'd done it, that her mom left him years ago after finding out he'd been putting bills, accounts, and even car titles under other people's names to avoid collection or taxes or some other mess. He didn't feel like cleaning up himself, and that once she'd heard him talking about me like I was some cautionary tale, the brother who stole from the family, the liar, the manipulator who got caught and then disappeared. She said she didn't believe it when she was a kid, but she also didn't know there was another version of me to believe in, so she stayed quiet and figured it wasn't her story to fix. The next morning, after lying awake for most of the night turning those words over like stones in my head, I walked down to the bank on Pacific Avenue with nothing but my ID, a sense of dread curling around my spine, and this grim curiosity about what I was going to find. I sat across from a polite but worried-looking woman who typed in my information with the slow caution of someone who's had one too many people cry in her office, and after a few silent minutes she said there was, in fact, an account opened under my name in Oregon, matching the same address from the letter Molly gave me. I didn't try to access the account, didn't ask for a balance or to close it or anything. I just took down the confirmation, thanked her, and stepped back into the gray daylight with this surreal feeling in my chest, like someone had replaced my ribs with paper, and I was trying not to breathe too hard in case I tore through something important. That afternoon, I pulled out my old laptop, the one with the buzzing fan and a spacebar that only works if you hit it just right, and filled out a consultation request through one of those online legal networks for people dealing with identity fraud, financial abuse, or the one that made me pause a little, interpersonal deception within family systems. I didn't name names yet. I just told the story as plainly as I could, gave them dates, documents, and context, and waited to hear back. Then I did something I hadn't done since the fundraiser. I wrote another post. This time, not a rant, not a vent, not even a confession. It was a timeline, a record, a stitched-together trail of everything I had gathered. Names, places, letters, bank confirmations, and the way it all connected. How it all started with a fundraiser and led to something way bigger than I thought I was ready for. I didn't beg for sympathy or ask for shares. I just told the truth, and it spread. Not like wildfire viral, no influencers, no headlines, but through real people. Friends of friends. Locals who recognized the names. Someone I used to work with back in college who messaged me just to say, "I see you, man. I get it." And in the comments, people said things like, "This happened to my cousin," or "Thank you for writing this." No one ever talks about how this happens in families. Then, like a ghost trying to reattach itself, Janine emailed me. No subject line, no greeting. Just a long, winding, guilt-laced letter that started with denial, spiraled into justification, dipped into martyrdom, and then landed somewhere between "we were trying to survive" and "you've hurt us more than you know." I didn't even finish it right away. I just read the first half, rolled my eyes, and forwarded the whole thing to the lawyer who'd already replied to my consultation and was waiting for documents. Because here's the thing, I'm not doing this to ruin them. I'm not here to get revenge or blow up anyone's life for sport. I'm doing this because if I don't take back the truth, then what's left of me gets shaped by the people who twisted it first, and I'm not going to let that happen anymore. They had their version. They shared it like gospel. Now it's my turn. A few months passed, and the strange thing was how quietly everything began to settle. Not because the case had been resolved or because I got some big sense of justice, but because at some point the noise in my head stopped feeling like it belonged to me, like I'd finally put a name on the storm and decided I didn't have to live inside it forever. The legal part was still dragging on. My lawyer checked in once a week with phrases like "still pending" and "no movement yet." But the part of me that used to flinch every time my phone buzzed had started sleeping again. Not great, but solid enough to remember dreams. I got the official letter early one morning when the heater was clicking like it always does before sunrise, and the apartment smelled faintly of yesterday's toast and the citrus cleaner I kept under the sink. It was one of those envelopes you know is from the government the second you see the font. No frills, no branding, just all caps confirmation that yes, my name had been used in a series of banking transactions tied to a fraudulent account structure, and no, there was no evidence I'd authorized any of it. The letter didn't offer comfort or clarity, didn't say anything about harm or consequence. It just confirmed what I already knew and gave it a number for reference. A few days later, someone from a victim's restitution fund called and told me I qualified for partial compensation. Not much, not even close to what had been taken or spent or stolen in my name. But something symbolic, like a gesture with a dollar sign attached. They asked if I wanted it processed, and I told them I'd think about it. Not because I didn't need the money, but because I didn't know if I could take it without feeling like I was signing something invisible. Something that said, "this is over now," when I didn't feel done. At the same time, Janine's lawyer emailed my lawyer. Some vague phrasing about a settlement and confidentiality. No apology, no explanation. Just an offer meant to make it all go away. I didn't even ask what the amount was. I just sent back one line that said there wouldn't be any deals because I wasn't doing this for that. I wasn't here to negotiate with people who had used my face and my story like a scratch ticket. That night, after sitting in silence longer than I probably needed to, I opened the same browser I'd used to write that first post and started typing again. Not because I needed the world to care, not because I wanted revenge, but because the silence had never been for my protection. It had only ever been theirs. The post wasn't dramatic or angry, it wasn't poetic or tragic. It just laid things out, clean and sharp, a sequence of facts and choices, the version of the story that hadn't been edited to protect the ones who caused it. I ended it with something simple, something that felt real to me in that moment, something I could stand behind without shaking, that this wasn't about exposing anyone. It was about reclaiming the parts of myself that had been twisted into a lie. After that, things changed in the way that matters only if you've lived it. People responded, not in huge numbers, not with fireworks, but with steady, thoughtful comments, some sharing their own stories, others just saying they believed me, which felt like its own kind of justice. No one asked for drama, no one asked for proof. They just met me where I was. A week later, while scrolling half-consciously through an old social tab I hadn't touched in months, I saw her. Or, more accurately, I saw the version of her she was trying to become. New account, new name, no tags, no location, just the same photo smile she always had, now framed in soft filters and motivational captions about strength, healing, and letting go. The post that caught my eye said something about choosing peace over history, which might have meant nothing or might have meant everything. I'll never really know. I didn't like it, didn't comment, didn't screenshot it for some future therapist. I just closed the tab and went to wash the mug I'd been drinking from because the moment had passed and I wasn't going to bring it back. A day or two later, Molly messaged me again. No drama, no exposition, just a short line about being glad we met, and I answered with the kind of honesty that doesn't need paragraphs. I thanked her for showing up, for telling the truth, for not expecting anything in return. And that felt like enough. I guess this is the part where most stories tie themselves up, where the good guys win or the bad guys apologize or everyone hugs in the rain. But none of that happened here. There was no reunion, no apology, no magical moment where the people who hurt me realized their mistake and begged to make it right. There was just a slow, steady shift from noise to quiet, from anger to stillness, from being defined by their actions to reclaiming my own. This story doesn't end with forgiveness, but it doesn't end with bitterness either. It just ends. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like enough.